let's move on to another question. At the Cynthia Rice, I love it. You're like the Ohio State University. The Cynthia Rice writes, when do you think Fani Willis will bring charges and who will be charged? Let me give a quick rundown on this. Thank you for the question. I think what I assume Ms. Rice is referring to here is the fact that as we record this week, a new grand jury was just sworn in Atlanta in the DA Fani Willis's investigation into the post-election interference in Georgia.
You find me 12,000 votes.
Yeah, find me. It's 11,780, which is actually bad math.
I was rounding up.
No, but do you realize what's stupid about that? Trump's number would have resulted in a tie. So, boy, he's like an onion.
Even when he's cheating, he's an idiot.
Yeah, it's a real.
And it's worth also adding that others that were involved in the pressure campaign down there include Lindsay Graham and Rudy Giuliani, who also have potential legal liability there, and probably some others I'm not thinking of. So worth mentioning.
Yes, they are neck deep. They are saggy, wrinkled neck deep in culpability here. The short answer is that Fani Willis has previously suggested that any indictments, if there are any, will likely come in August. The slightly longer answer is that what you probably have heard about previously was an investigative grand jury, which Fani Willis had pulled together to look at the circumstances of what occurred and to gather evidence. They had subpoena power. They could compel testimony from witnesses who might not otherwise be willing to talk to the DA. They issued a report that was largely not made public. That's where there was that whole kerfuffle with the foreperson of the grand jury who went on a media tour, which was a bit of a mistake. But that doesn't affect what's happened here. There is now a grand jury that is charged with potentially bringing back indictments, will consider criminal charges and that could include, for the other part of the question, who will be charged, Donald Trump, other Republican allies. You should obviously keep an eye on Rudy Giuliani.
Knee deep, and whoever was on those phone calls, and then Lindsey Graham made a separate call to the Secretary of State, Republican Secretary of State, Raffin,
right,
to pressure him. And there could be others we don't even know about.
One point on that, and then you should jump in, is that in the past, Fani Willis has made extensive use of Georgia's Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, which is like the federal RICO Act. That's how you go after mobsters, is you charge them with being part of a conspiracy. If you do any coordination in furtherance of committing a crime, you can be part of this kind of a conspiracy. So what we don't know is, was there any coordination behind the scenes? And that could draw in all kinds of figures in Trump's orbit.
If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, these people behave like mobsters. And Donald Trump learned at the knee of mobster Roy Cohn, and his dad, I believe it was the Luciano crime family, was involved with in New York when he originally started his slumlord business. Yeah, they're good at that stuff. Look, you covered a lot of it. We've been hearing for months now that Fani Willis was saying August was the time. So for Cynthia Rice, who asked a question, I appreciate it. And again, they have a tape. This is one of the more sort of like the stolen documents. This is one of the easier cases. I'm not a lawyer, but I do know what tapes are. I do know there's a guy named Richard Nixon. Tapes didn't work out so well for him. The fact of the matter is that the tapes are going to be incredibly damaging and the witnesses are going to be incredibly damaging. And we've already heard in other cases that Mark Meadows has flipped. So why would he have not here? I don't know, but I would suspect so. I think I would be shocked if Donald Trump is not indicted in August over this. And I'm not one of these sort of Pollyannish, always optimistic. I think there's still ways he can get out of getting indicted for January 6th, which would upset me because the country needs that. He'll be indicted for enough stuff, and hopefully spend enough time in prison, it doesn't matter. But the country needs him to be indicted for January 6th. That one I'm not as optimistic about. I'm not saying I'm pessimistic, but this one, I think this is pretty straightforward. Now, there's one other factor, and maybe you know more about this, Matt, which of course, because even Republicans Donald Trump insults, kiss his butt religiously, that Brian Kemp in the state legislature there was trying to pass some legislation where they could remove local prosecutors because, again, they don't believe in democracy. So could we be looking at a Georgia constitutional crisis where they try to remove Fani Willis in August before she makes her recommendations? I don't know.
That's a very interesting angle. Definitely something to keep an eye on. And look, all of these are moving targets. And they are very much targets. Let's be clear. Why are they targets? Because they're all freaking criminals. Here's a fun exercise for our viewers and our listeners at home. Google allies or Trump campaign folks or Trump White House personnel who have been indicted or sent to prison. It's a challenge for Google. Just if you want to challenge your Google algorithm.